Okay, so I'm going to move into Director's Update for our science meeting today. Now, normally I would be giving, well, we were hoping actually I'd be able to give the results from our midterm review report by the ARC, but we haven't received that yet. And I think that's because the ARC has been a little busy dealing with some other more important issues, such as preprints issues at the moment. And so anyway, I'm going to give an overview of the centre, things we've done in the last year, including our research highlights, things that have been put out on press releases, and then also some other interesting information about the centre. And so here we go. So first I'm going to give an introduction to ASTRO 3D, and that's mainly for the new people who've joined the centre. So we've had quite a lot of new members join the centre in this last year, both through our new nodes, but also there's a lot of new students and new postdocs who've joined the centre. So I'd like to welcome all the new people to the centre and give a short overview of ASTRO 3D. So ASTRO 3D has three goals. The first goal is to understand the origin of the ionized universe, and particularly focusing on the sources of reionization. How were those sources distributed, and how did the ionizing sources evolve across space and cosmic time? And in particular, we're using the MWA, and you'll hear more results, more about that later on during this science meeting. And we're also simulating what we'd expect to detect from the epoch of reionization in 3D. And this is really leading into the SKA, which is due to begin construction next year. The goal two of ASTRO 3D is to understand the accumulation of mass and angular momentum across the universe. And in particular, we're really aiming to understand how galaxies formed and evolved from the very first galaxies in the universe. We're currently looking at first galaxies using HST candidates, and that's leading into JWST, which we're hoping will launch early next year. In the intermediate redshifts, we're using Keck and the ESO VLT telescopes. And then for the nearby galaxies, we're using the ASCAP as well as SAMI and Hector instruments to understand the mass and angular momentum in the nearby universe, both in the ionized gas, the stars, as well as the neutral gas. And then we're trying to understand the origin of the elements. So how did the building blocks of life, such as carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, build in the first stars, and then how did they evolve within the first galaxies and then subsequent generations of galaxies across cosmic time? And to do that, we're using a combination of just different instruments. We're using SkyMapper to discover the oldest stars in the universe. We're using HST and the VLT and the AAT to discover early galaxies and then follow them up to measure their spectra and then measure their chemical elements. And then in the very local universe in the Milky Way, we're tracking the history of the Milky Way by chemical tagging, which is taking very high resolution spectra of stars, and we're aiming to get 1 million stars. And that's stars that have been revealed with their ages from the Gaia satellite. And all of these surveys are combined together, or basically linked together through our Genesis simulations, which are simulations which basically start from the epoch of reionization and then proceed right up to the Milky Way. And these are direct simulations for comparison with our observations, including mock observables. Now, our current centre has 270 people across 17 institutions, including 9 universities in Australia, as well as CSIRO and the NCI. And we have a range of surveys and projects, and they actually cover the full range of cosmic time from the epoch of reionization right up to the present day Milky Way. And to help bring all these different surveys and projects together, we have things which we call threads, which basically weave together people from different key groups and surveys and projects. And so there's a lot of things in the centre which act as threads. The Genesis simulation spans the full range of surveys and projects. We have our key goals, our key projects, the ionized universe, evolution of mass and angular momentum, and the chemical history. They span by design, multiple surveys and projects. Our data-intensive astronomy and virtual observatory program spans the different surveys and projects, and so do the committees. And all of these things actually help bring us together as a centre. Now I'm going to show you some of the discovery highlights that ASTRO 3D has made in the last year. These are based on the press releases. So we've actually had 10 press releases just this year. So these are the ones I'm going to focus on. So we're really steaming ahead with our discoveries in the centre, which is great to see. So first up, we've got a discovery in first stars, and this is hot off the press. So magnetorotational hypernova from, we think, fueled high levels of chemical elements, including uranium, europium, zinc, possibly gold, in one of the oldest stars known. And this is work done by David Young in the first stars team, as well as our partner investigator, new partner investigator, Chiaki Kobayashi, who conducted the simulations for this one of the first stars. And the Genesis team, Adam Stevens and the Genesis team have analysed the H1 gas, the neutral hydrogen gas, in galaxies undergoing collisions. And previous simulations had really focused on the atomic gas, but the Genesis team have shown that when you extend the simulations to the neutral gas, we can show that gas is stripped from smaller galaxies by tidal forces in the same way. And I encourage you to go have a look at this link, because there's a very beautiful simulation attached to this media release, which had a lot of press at the time. Chemical evolution and galaxy evolution teams made a discovery very recently. This just came out. So Deanne Fisher and Alex Cameron used the Keck Cosmic Web Imager, and they looked at a John galaxy and found that and actually managed to calculate the amount of metals removed from galaxies by outflows, which has been notoriously difficult to do in the past. And so this is really groundbreaking stuff, and I think it paves the way for a much better understanding of feedback in galaxies, which will impact our simulations on galaxy formation and evolution. We had a discovery also by our associate investigator and former student, Sonia Sharma, and she's currently at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. And she developed with Chen Yuan a new algorithm to construct gravitationally lensed images, and in much finer detail than was able to be done previously. And this now allows images of gravitational lenses taken using, for example, laser-guided adaptive optics on 8 to 10 meter telescopes. It allows the gravitationally lensed galaxies to be reconstructed at similar resolution scales as those observations. And this is also really primed for discoveries with JWST. Also in galaxy evolution, Angie Gupta and Kimby Tran published a press release and paper looking at how galaxies and their star formation evolves with time, and having a look at their morphologies. And this is in collaboration with Lars Hörnquist and the Illustris team. And they used Illustris simulations to show that normal type disk galaxies stop their star formation earlier than extended or puffy type disk galaxies, which continue their star formation right up until the present day. This is a press release that had huge impact, especially at the ARC. So the SAMI released their full data set of 3,000 galaxies, and we were really pleased to see that the ARC used this in their media research highlights. They don't often include, research highlight. They don't have many research highlights that they include, and it's seen amongst the centres as something tremendously prestigious to get your press release being highlighted by the ARC in this way. Now the SAMI and Galar team combined together, which is great to see. So this is a cross-project collaboration where they looked at the formation of the Milky Way versus the formation of nearby galaxies in SAMI, which also similar to the Milky Way in terms of disks. And what they found is that nearby galaxies that look like the Milky Way actually show the Milky Way's thin and thick disks as well as the Milky Way. And so it's likely that the Milky Way formed fairly peacefully rather than through violent collisions. And so this was the topic of many media stories, and in particular, this is probably my favorite. Sorry, the Milky Way isn't as cool as we thought it was. And now we've also reached some scientific milestones in the centre, including the ASCAP surveys. which are revealing massive H1 reservoirs. So here's a wallaby image compared to its DSS Galaxy image. And so there's massive reservoirs of H1, which we're really not accessing when we're looking just using the optical or the infrared. And so in the coming years, we're looking forward to ASCAP surveys ongoing and completing, and then multi-wavelength follow-up, which has already begun on the ESO VLT. We've also, in our centre, been taking advantage of new opportunities. So, for example, CI Michaeli Trenti at University of Melbourne has been developing the SPIRIT satellite, and this is due for launch at the end of 2022 with operations for 2 years. And this is really aimed at X-ray and gamma ray detections. And there's the first Australian Space Agency has funded the mission. He's also, Michaeli's also working on Skyhopper, which is a near-infrared CubeSat that's closer to the SPIRIT team, the SPIRIT satellite, and that includes 7 ASTRO 3D nodes in that collaboration. We also have many ASTRO 3D astronomers who are designing and developing the science case for MAVIS. This is, the science lead is Richard McDermott at Macquarie University, and the team includes 7 ASTRO 3D nodes, as well as our international partner Oxford University. And this is going to be a multi-conjugate adaptive optics imager and spectrograph for the VLT. And this is going to be a key instrument in our next centre proposal, ASTRO HD. There's also work underway by ASTRO 3D astronomers to help Australia obtain full partnership in ESO, and we'd be tremendously excited not only to continue our access on the VLT, but also to access the ELT, because it's due to begin operations in 2028, about 10 to 12 years earlier than any other ELT. Now I'm going to do a quick overview of some of our collaboration highlights as they stand at the moment. So collaborations across multiple universities and across different surveys and projects now within the centre, and we can actually track those using publications, and this is something that we showed to the ARC during our midterm review. So the figure on the left here shows you the ASTRO 3D cross project collaborations, and this is based on publications. So the different chords here that are connecting different projects, the number of based on the number of publications crossing the projects. So if there's a wider chord, there's more publications. And the humps here show you the within project publications, or publications that are made by authors within the surveys and projects without other survey and project members involved. And so you can see that for most of the surveys and projects, there's now about 50% of the publications are collaborations that are across different surveys and projects, and some of these are across traditional collaborations, and others are actually across new collaborations, for example, ASCAP and SEMI, and then the whole Genesis team, and with all the different surveys and projects, which is really fantastic. We can also have a look at the nodes and the different collaborations that are occurring across the different nodes in the surveys and projects. And so again, the width of the chord tells you is related to the number of publications. And you can see that all of our original nodes have collaborations across multiple surveys and projects, and some with many large collaborations across multiple surveys and projects. And our new nodes have less, but that's to be expected as they've just joined the centre this year. And we expect over time that these chords here will increase to represent more publications across different surveys and projects as well. We've been building critical mass throughout the centre, and we now have 270 members compared with 150 at the beginning of the centre. And we have a very large number of refereed publications and citations and impact for the centre, including several Nature papers, science papers. And then if you count up the amount of new telescope time awarded, it's $125 million. So really fantastic to see. We've expanded, as you know, and I'm tremendously pleased to welcome the 3 new nodes, and we were going to have a new node welcome dinner as part of this science meeting. Unfortunately, we can't do it because we're online, but I still want to welcome the new nodes. New nodes are bringing in key expertise for the centre, as well as $1 million of new cash for the centre. to help with individual surveys and projects. Now, it's interesting to look at student and postdoc career outcomes, and this is really positive outcomes. So I've had a look at the former postdocs and students for the first half of the year and where they are now. 67% are in astronomy careers, and the remaining 33% are in other industries, including the energy industry, biotech, medical, defense research, supercomputing, business and non-profit, with the largest industries being the computing industry and data science industry by far. So 23% of former astronomy students and postdocs are now in the data science and computer industry. Of the 67 postdocs and students with careers in astronomy, about 60% are now overseas, doing postdocs overseas. And this is at a range of astronomy organisations, including some of our partner orgs, Oxford University and Chinese Academy of Sciences, as well as high-profile international institutions such as Space Telescope, Science Institute, NASA Goddard Space Flight Centre. We have new committees that have come up in the last year or year and a half in the centre, and these include an awards committee. We have our international seminars committee and a sustainability committee, and very recently we've now got a Black Lives Matter committee. And so if you're interested in contributing to these committees or in being involved in any way, please do contact the chairs of the committees. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you. And I want to just do a highlight. The International Seminars Committee was formed as a response to some of the impacts of COVID-19, and because we needed to really provide more international exposure for our students and postdocs who are going to be on the job market. The committee did a blind review process and awarded 36 talks, which was 50-50 as it happened from the blind review process, male and female. And when I refer to males and females, I mean people who identify as female or people who identify as male. And you can see here across the countries the different range of registered attendees of the talks, and there were 297 registered attendees from at least 23 different countries. And these are the people who attended these talks, people who are attending because they're interested in the talks. They're interested because they work in the area and they want to know about what's happening in that area, or they might want to hire a person in that area. So this is really great audience. Now I'm going to talk about achieving our diversity targets, because we're about to hit our 50-50 target, which is fantastic. So our target at the beginning of the centre, which we put in our ASTRO 3D proposal, was 50-50 men and women at all levels by the end of 2021. And we introduced a range of new initiatives shown here in black in order to help achieve this. And these initiatives are really aimed at both recruitment as well as retention and building an inclusive and positive atmosphere. So where are we at now? So the plot on the left shows you our binary gender diversity at the moment, and we now have, as of 20th of August, 48% women in the centre. So we're now significantly above the Australian average, and my calculations suggest that we're on track for 50-50, probably actually before the end of the year. We look at we can look at this in terms of all levels in the centre. And so we've reached 50% now in our chief investigators, our affiliates, our postdocs and our students. And we now are really working on our partner investigators. These are primarily institutions overseas, as well as our associate investigators, which are also a combination of Australian and overseas organisations, but they too have been increasing over time. Now, I'm now getting asked by lots of other centres of excellence and organisations how we did this. And so it's through, as I said, it's through a range of initiatives, but here's something interesting. I've been looking at the data, and what's happened from December 2018 to December 2020, most of the increase was due to our postdoc and our continuing faculty hires. We had some female-only continuing positions, as well as about 40 postdoc hires across the centre. The remaining increase has been due to students. And so these are new students who've come into the centre, who are engaged in the centre and want to do projects in our centre. We now have a significantly larger number of female students than the Australian astronomy average. And I think this is due to the fact that we've built both a positive culture and supportive culture, and also the fact that we have a large number of female mentors and role models in the centre. Now I'm going to shift gears and talk about the national benefit of the centre, and in particular I'm going to focus on our education outreach programs. We've made some really tremendous progress over the last year in these programs, and I'm going to focus first on telescopes in schools. So this is a program that was originally operating at University of Melbourne before ASTRO 3D started. And we saw really a lot of potential in bringing this nationwide as a model for a telescopes in schools program, because it was very successful in increasing the fraction of girls entering physics in public school, as well as then going on into science areas in university. And so we then decided to roll it out across the different states. So by 2020, we've now rolled it out in all states except Tasmania. And we've added also rural schools, and we've reached about 3,000 students and 3,000 community members. And in particular, our STARS program, which is astronomers taking telescopes to regional areas, has had a fantastic uptake, and we've also now brought in new additional funding from the federal government, and we also are collaborating with ICRA and the Spirit Telescope for this program. And I'm really pleased to announce that this year we've begun a collaboration with the Tjabal Indigenous Higher Education Centre, which is based here at the ANU. And this allows us to introduce the Indigenous night sky, and that's being taught within this program by Gamila Rai, Yual Larai Man, Pete Swanton. And we're also supported for this program by the Tjabal Indigenous Higher Education Centre. We're also about to begin, when we can, an in-person Indigenous work experience program, and we also are operating currently virtual work experience programs, and we've received a Federal Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources grant to help fund this program, as well as an RSAA community grant. And finally, I'm just going to show you some exciting things on the year ahead for our centres. So in particular, now we're really looking ahead to the next generation of telescopes. JWST is about to launch. We're so excited. We hope it's going to work. And then we have LSST about to start shortly after that. And then we're on the pathway now towards the SKA being built in Western Australia, beginning construction next year, and also the EELT. And so really we're getting ready for these telescopes. We need to have our science targets ready as a centre. We're building our teams and our leaders and our theoretical models and the sample selection ready to go. And so in particular, it's a big year for ASTRO HD Next Centre proposal being led by Stu Wyeth and Kath Trott. The rejoinders period is going to open on 23rd of September, so we'll know what the assessors think of that, the expression of interest at that time, and then full applications are going to close on 23rd of March. So busy time for preparation of the ASTRO HD proposal, and I know there are many of you will be involved in that. We also are looking forward to our annual retreat. We have booked the venue, which is going to be in the beautiful Blue Mountains. We really hope we're all open up by then and can have an in-person retreat. This is really important for our strategic planning, for our surveys and projects. And as I said, we'll be looking towards those next generation telescopes for this strategic planning. And we're also planning to do an Indigenous awareness training workshop, as well as some student ECR training workshops. This coming year, we're going to be offering, again, a range of student and postdoc training and also leadership courses for the whole centre. The ones in purple are the ones that we're going to be offering. Some are new, some are ones we're going to be re-offering based on feedback. That is what people want. And so these include things like job application writing, grant writing. We'll continue our scientific writing workshops. We will be offering a 3D prototyping and design workshop, as well as we are currently discussing offering help beyond these applications for beyond astronomy. We're going to be offering again our Women's Leadership Workshop with Beth Beckman, as well as a general leadership workshop, and that will be focused on large project leadership, again looking to the next generation of telescopes. And then we're planning on building internships in industry and SAIL labs in addition to our ongoing media and communications internships. Now, we need your feedback in the centre. We want you to complete the ASTRO 3D climate survey. Please fill in the climate survey to encourage you to fill in the climate survey, which you could do during this science meeting, and that would be excellent, and it doesn't take that long. There will be a prize for the node with the most % completions, and the prizes will be great. It's going to be a fully catered event. Node lunch, could be a node lunch, could be a dinner, could be a cocktail party. Maybe you all want to go out to brunch. Whatever you want, whenever you're able to get together again, your event will be on me. So start filling out those surveys and help your node have a fabulous, fully paid event. And I've taken the liberty to have a look at how many completions we've had per node so far. And looks like UNSW and Curtin are currently tied winners at 40% completions, but there's other nodes that are sort of not too far behind. So everybody get online. I've made a tiny URL here, write it down, 4EVYC6NA. You can go to this site and complete the ASTRO 3D climate survey, and let's see which node will get the fully catered node lunch or dinner whenever we can get back together again. And I think I'll stop there and take any questions. Thank you.